Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. You can't have baseball without the seventh inning stretch, and you can't have the seventh inning stretch without taking me out to the ball game. So you've heard of our next guest, or at least his music. He's Paul Cartier, the organist for the New York Yankees as well as the New York Islanders. So he is the man behind the music. Hi, Paul. Welcome to the show.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
I know it's an honor to have you. Any baseball Yankee fan, you go to a game right after God Bless America, you hear over the PA system, now to play, take me out to the ball game, Paul Cartier. So I wanted fans to, put a face to the name.
Very good. Yeah, it's fun stuff. I'm blessed.
Now, in terms of fan lineage, it seems like a lot of Yankee fans, also are Giant fans and Ranger fans. So what a lot of Yankee fans might not know, you're also the organist for the New York Islanders as well.
Correct.
And a man of multiple talents and multiple duties. You also work as a volunteer in South Hempstead. Is that correct? With the volunteer department there.
Right.
And it seems like you recently retired, but also you spent many years working in air traffic control as well.
Correct. Yeah, I've been pretty lucky. I've had a lot of good jobs that I liked and never. And as they say, if you like what you do, it's never work.
All right. Now, again, you're so dedicated. Just to let you know that, again, as you said before, you're actually inside the firehouse right this moment. So even though you're a well-known person, you're still with it. You're still willing to serve your community.
Oh yeah, playing that gig. I mean, it's brought notoriety, sure, but I'm just still me, and this is what I do, and I've been doing this volunteer for 42 years. That it kind of gets in here. I've lived here all that long, and you do it for your neighborhood. So I don't really think of it as that I'm somebody special doing this.
And in addition to that, if that's not enough, you also play the organ at your local parish as well. And actually,
oh yeah.
And from reading about you, that's really kind of where you got started in terms of being, let's say, a public performer, was playing at your local churches.
Correct. I started on the eve of my 11th birthday. So it was somewhere there during this year that I realized that January 3rd of this past year was my 50th year of doing church. I have been at one parish for 32 years, and I fill in at a bunch of other places. So it's good to give back there. I don't want to think that's not volunteer. I do get paid for that too. But yeah, I love doing that. And like I said, I've been very lucky with all the things I've done. So I'm blessed. Thank God every day for that.
So we'll go back, I guess, in terms of, how did you, get an interest in music and specifically the organ? When did that really start? How did that start? And what really attracted you to that musical instrument?
It's funny. I guess I was about 8 or 9, and my aunt bought this little Magnus chord organ that sat on a tabletop, and you just hit a button for the chords and you played the notes. She had that, and I sat down and just started playing, and I liked it. So my parents went out and bought me a little fancier version with built-in speakers and stuff, and played all the time. So I wanted to then move on to a larger 2-keyboard organ. Went to the local organ place. They said I should take piano to get my scales and fingerings and everything for like a year. I marked the calendar to a year. And a year from then, after taking piano lessons, I got the organ. And I just liked it. My parents never had a fight with me to practice. They just enjoyed it. And I was lucky enough to take to it. And that's pretty much how it went. Played in church. Like I said, I volunteered in church from when I was 11 till I went away to college. And so that is where I got my start. And then when I came back to New York, I transferred back and went to Hofstra University. And that's right in Uniondale. So I started playing in church in Uniondale, and I am a big Islander fan. And you don't want to go through the whole story, but I knocked on some doors and got my foot in the door. One of my professors was, in fact, the organist there, Dr. Fred Mendelson. And they had an indoor soccer team coming in at the time, the New York Arrows. Now, if you ever heard of them, Major Indoor Soccer League. They were there for 6 years. So I started with them, but that same year I started filling in at Islander games. And 2 years later, I started doing the Islanders, which was during the Cup years. So how lucky was I at like 19 or 20? And I'm playing in the Stanley Cup finals,
Now, you also, did, go to some baseball games and just kind of at Shea Stadium and Yankee Stadium. I mean, would you ever envision, just going to those games and, hey, one day I would like to do this, or is this, you didn't even think about it?
No, no, never really thought that. My dad worked with Mrs. Payson, who was the original owner for the Mets. If you ever see the highlight reels from '69, you see the older woman holding the trophy. That's her, and he worked with her. And her brother owned a thoroughbred stable at Belmont called Green Tree Stables, and he was their accountant for 52 years. So he would just come home. He'd never say, "Give me a warning." He'd say, "Come on, we're going to the ballpark." So we'd go to Shea Stadium, and I was very spoiled, but I was too young to realize it. I was only like 10, 11, and would sit right on the dugout on the rail in the owner's box. Players would stop to give me their autograph. I thought that's how that worked. While everybody else is down the, right field line, they're all clamoring to get autographs. They would just stop and, give me autographs. But I also got to go to the Yankee Stadium also because Mr. Whitney, the brother, had tickets there, and just equally as spoiled right on behind the dugout. Put your soda right on the dugout. So I went to quite a few games as a kid, but I always made sure we got there early so I could listen to the organist.
And in terms of baseball, I mean, were you into the sport itself, or you were just
Was
kind of?
I was that nerd who would sit home and score every game.
Hmm.
So I knew all the batting averages, and they didn't really talk a lot about all the other things you hear today, but the batting average was big. I knew all the players back then, better than I do now, even though I'm in it.
I mean, were you gravitated towards Yankees or Mets as a fan, or was this kind of like you just like baseball in general?
Well, I got to admit, and it's probably something I shouldn't, but the Mets won in '69, so I guess I kind of gravitated there. Probably went to more games there. My brother was the big Yankee fan, but oddly enough, I guess once you start working for them, it wasn't that difficult to come over to the other side, you know. And now I'm just as big a Yankee fan.
Gotcha. Now, obviously, we'll get into it briefly. Again, you're there for the early '80s with the Islanders, but in the mid '80s, though, you seemingly do work as an air traffic controller. What kind of got you into that? Because that's just kind of like you go from the organist for the Islanders, and all of a sudden
Yeah,
now you're helping glide planes in. Like how did that?
that's a good question because it was totally unrelated. So I got a degree in music from Hofstra in '81. I worked at Cablevision for a while, some other odd jobs. There were no jobs in the area. I wasn't really the type to just up and move away. And actually, my neighbor, she was going out with a guy who was a controller. So I was the typical young guy who was out washing his car 3 times a week, and he'd stop and say, "What are you doing with your life?" So, I told him, and he says, "You should go take the air traffic controller test. It is a great job." And so I did. And in '87, I took the test in February. And in September, they called me, and I went to Oklahoma City for like 3 to 4 months. That was actually, by the way, with a college degree, that was probably harder than anything I had done in college. And I passed that, which is only a 50-50 pass rate. Half the people go home after that. And then I was assigned to an air traffic control facility out of here on Long Island, and I ended up loving the job. 27 years, and I can honestly say I didn't have one of those jobs or ever where I called in because I couldn't do the job. Like I didn't want to be there. We've probably all been there at the job where you didn't really care for the job.
Mm.
Yeah, I won't say there weren't nights I was tired or days I was tired and called in sick or whatever, but especially after a late night extra inning game or something like that. But so that's how I got into it. So by the way, if any young people are out there, you should go look on the FAA's website. They're hiring often, and it is probably the highest paying and the best, I'd say, the best civilian job out there.
Oh, that's interesting. So when you have a job like that, I'm sure you have a schedule. So how do you work that in with whether it's the Islanders or the Yankees? Like how do you plan?
Well, that also is a good question because that almost cost me having the job with the Yankees. See, the Islander games are mostly at night. So you work shift work, 7 to 3, 3 to 11, midnight to 8 or 7 or 11 to 7 at night. And so an Islander game being at night, and this happened this way with the Yankees, if I was scheduled to work an evening shift, there was always people to swap with and work a day shift. Plenty of people don't like getting up early in the morning. So when the Yankees actually approached me about doing this, that was an issue on the weekends because the games are almost always 1 o'clock games. That hits 2 different shifts. So I had to actually decline in the beginning and say, I have a full-time job. I can't possibly do all these games. And then, I don't know, a couple of weeks went by and the Yankees got in touch with me again and said, do you think you could do Monday to Friday? Now that I knew I could swap. So, and that's how Ed Alston plays on Saturday and Sunday. And that's how that came to be. So they hired me just to do Monday to Friday and they hired Ed to do Saturday, Sunday.
Interesting. So before you was Eddie Layton, the legendary
Right.
Eddie Layton.
Legendary.
How long was he actually the organist at Yankee Stadium?
37 years.
Wow. And
So I only have 20 more to go.
I think you're a busy, active guy. I think you could definitely surpass that.
Possibility.
But when they did like sort of transfer over the power of the organ, so to speak, did Eddie give you any tips or any, anything that you should do or any advice?
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, I was already doing the Islanders and being an avid sports fan and always watching. I mean, I could pretty much sit on the bench and I already knew at either stadium how they did things. But yeah, Eddie, sat with me. I didn't never saw him that much. I knew him for 20 years, but most of the time I'd be filling in for him for Islander games because there was a time there after like 85 where I was out for a while. He was in there. And then if he couldn't do anything, I'd back him up. So I'd met him a few times and knew of him, but yeah, and he was actually there for my audition at the stadium, and he threw out a bunch of tunes to play, and we spoke about it, and he gave me the tap on the shoulder and looked at who was now going to be my boss, and said, "This is the guy."
So yeah, I was actually going to ask that, like, how do you audition or apply? So they just give you some like generic baseball songs, you just gotta hit them, and
That was it, really. He just wanted, it was very basic stuff, happy birthday. Could you do the anthem, the Canadian anthem? And then some of they say happy birthday, and then the chant stuff that we do. And I knew all that stuff. So my audition it was in February of 2004. It was snow on the ground. And at the old stadium, even though you were in a booth, you were really outside, just encased in glass. It was cold. And you could see your breath and sitting there trying to play with cold fingers. But that was pretty much it. I wasn't quite sure what he was going to throw at me, and had me just play a couple of songs that I like. And he was like, "That's it. That's good."
All right, excellent. So now, as the organist, whether you're doing baseball games or a hockey game, what's maybe the biggest difference between the two sports?
Well, obviously hockey's just so much quicker action. And I can jump in right at the end of it as a whistle blows. I don't really have that, with the stadium. At both places, I have a DJ that I, work with. So sometimes we'll get advanced, like, all right, you get the next whistle, or you get the next foul ball, or something like that. So I just feel like in hockey, I'm able to jump in a little quicker. One of the things I talk about is that, like Eddie Layton had back in the days when he played, there was no DJ, and he was able to show his like humor and his personality because his players could come up to the bat. If it was an Italian guy, he might play some sort of an Italian song or tie it in some way or the other. Something happened, he on the field, he might be able to play something immediately to that. But today the DJ really fills that role. So if there's something that happens during the inning, I might be able to refer to it. I play out every half inning, like 8 to 10 seconds, and maybe play something there right at the end of the inning, if you can remember that it refers back to that. In fact, even when I used to listen, I don't have the capability anymore, but I used to be able to listen to the radio or TV broadcasts, and I'd have like John Sterling on, and he might mention, if you've ever listened, sometimes he breaks into song or he's mentioned the song, and I will, all of a sudden play that same song just to see if they notice. So you try to have fun with it too, and I get fans come up to me and, hey, can you play this song? And I'm like, well, it's kind of tough now, but I'll give you, 8 to 10 seconds of it if I can. So you try to just have fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just think that, like, the difference between the two is just like, I guess hockey just seems more spontaneous, and baseball is again more structured because when they say happy birthday, when there's the seventh inning stretch and all that. So I guess with hockey, you have to be a little more on your toes in terms of just
right.
paying attention to the action on the field.
I would agree with that.
You've been in the Yankee, Organist for a couple of years, so you've seen some, probably see some great moments, some unexpected moments. Are there any sort of memories that just stand out, or funny moments, or even like the story told with John Sterling? Any little things like that?
A couple of things with the Yankees. So it's 17 years. I finished up last year. This would have been 18, but I am not at the stadium. They're just using recorded this year. So I guess the World Series in 2009 has got to stick out, and know that half an hour after the game was over, I was down standing, having my picture taken on the mound and celebrating. I was by myself, but I mean, everybody was celebrating. It was just an amazing moment. The parade after that, being part of the parade. I remember being there. Jeter's last out, as a Yankee in Yankee Stadium, the walk off. There's so many with this team, but the bad moment would be my first year was the year the Yankees lost 4 in a row in the playoffs to the Red Sox. I was pretty sure I'd be fired right away. They'd blame it on the new organist. And but I have to say, one of my biggest moments has been, and it wasn't a play, it was that I was able to become friends with legendary Bob Shepard. Turned out, never knew it, I lived like 2 miles from him. So the last 3 years of his career, we actually carpooled. I mean, I drove him, so I got to know him. If you search YouTube, my name and his name, you'll find a story that the local News 12 did here. They put a camera guy in the car, all the way to the stadium, and 2 local guys doing their thing at Yankee Stadium. It was pretty cool, and he is absolutely what you saw. Just looking at dictionary and the gentleman, you'd see him there. Amazing man. But those are some really great moments.
And again, as Yankee fans, I think all baseball fans always consider him the voice of God. Just coming over that loudspeaker.
Well, I mean, the first day, my first game in 2004. He to announce my name, but he actually came in. He sat right behind me. So, I mean, that was part of it too. The first day, to look over my shoulder, and it was glass there, but there's Bob Shepard. He's 5 feet behind me, and he came and he walked into my booth, and we had already met just a little while earlier, but he wanted to know, is it Cartier or Cartier? I'm like, however you say it will be fine, so we went with Cartier, and just it never got old to hear him say your name. I mean, how many people wish they could do that? And then I was blessed that I got him as a favor to do my the voiceover for my daughter's Sweet 16.
Wow.
So he was happy to do that. So that was really a surprise to everybody. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Katie's Sweet 16. And he did. I had him use a couple of the normal things he'd say at the stadium. And it was fun.
No, that's like a once in a lifetime experience.
Oh, absolutely.
And to get him to do the birthday like that, it's incredible. I think if again the technology wasn't there, but he would be like the greatest voice, like an app or something.
Yeah. Well, they still use him on the TV, right? Every once in a while, coming up this half hour or coming up next, you hear it.
Yep, on the Yes Network.
Yes.
So now you take the organ. Obviously, it's used in pretty much all sports. What is it about it that kind of it drives the game? It drives the experience. It builds attention. Like, what is it about the organ that does that?
Well, it's a powerful instrument, and you can recreate, and especially today, you can recreate so many different sounds too. But I guess going all the way back to Eddie Layton was one of the pioneers of it. It just worked, and they'd start to play some sort of rhythmic chant, and the people would clap to it. And it's now just become it's part of the game. I know when I would come out and go to one of the ballparks, and you pay, you get in, you park, all that, you go in and you walk out, and there's the green grass, and you heard the organ playing. I mean, that was it, man. So I used to love that. I got to be honest, a lot of people come over and tell me that they do too, and wish that they'd hear some more of it. Not so much of the stuff you can technically play on the radio.
No, I agree with that. And just thinking back to when I was going to games, just with Eddie Layton years, he would say there would be a little more jingles on the side, but now you kind of got like the day-o, the like, it has sort of decreased a little bit, and there was something like a little more charming and romantic of letting the organist kind of, again, like you said before, play around with a little bit in the game, kind of do little jingles and
Right.
versus
And
all the canned stuff.
yeah, I know Eddie, also and myself, we both also try to keep some of the tunes in there that he's done in the past too. So uh, I believe we both to this day start our sets off. We both play about an hour before the game, I guess. And we start with New York, New York, because Eddie Layton always started off with New York, New York. I know I play "Gotta Have Heart." That was the CD he did. That was the top song on that. I know. Even when I play New York, New York, I do some of the things that he used to do the way he played it, just as a thing for him, a tribute to him. And we've always done that. I don't really think about it that much anymore. We just do it. The Campbell Soup song, good, good. He used to do that. I'll do that, like if they pull off a double play or something, or a great play at the end of the inning. So things like that. And I know Ed Olson does some of that stuff too.
And in terms of like, whether it's the Islander games or the Yankee games, I mean, do you like kind of pre-plan, like, hey, I'm gonna switch things up a little bit, or it's just when you get there, you just kind of feel it in the moment?
Yep, that's it for me anyway. I pretty much just feel at the moment. I get social media has made a big difference in things today, and I will get people. I don't go out and ask for it. There are organists in major leagues that actually reach out to the fans for requests and stuff. But I will get some during the game, and if I can squeeze them in, like I said, once a game is started, I can do something that's got 8 to 10 seconds or so at the end of the inning. So is it something you can understand what it is by the time I do just a little snippet of it or not? So that's it.
Now, in terms of the actual the way the equipment they set it up, did you ever have an incident where I don't know, so something went wrong, you were playing it, you don't hear any sound, you panic, anything like that, or is this everything's always just connected 100% and there's never an issue there?
No, actually, not this past season. The season before at Barclays, the organ went out about midway through the third period, just stopped.
Mm.
So this is what we did. I don't even know if anybody noticed. The DJ there has just about all the stuff, all the chant stuff, and a few songs. End of the period. There's an Islander theme song that we always end the period with. Has all that stuff recorded just in the event something happens that I can't be there. And actually, a couple of years ago, I had to take an EMT exam, and I had to, there was no way around it. So what I did is I moved over. He has it on this machine called an instant replay. And he quick set it up that it was just in these buttons. And I sat there, and instead of actually playing the organ, I just sat there and would hit the one button, and it would play what I would have played on the organ. So we were able to make that work. But that's the only time. Everything else, luckily, has been good.
All right. Now, as I said before, the season kind of weird with all the COVID stuff. I mean, has baseball or the Yankees specifically, or in the Islanders, like giving you any sort of heads up of did they think they're gonna be coming back next year, or gonna kind of be like play a wait and see sort of deal?
Nope, wait and see. It's kind of gotten that way where, I didn't even get a call the year before, I guess, for the Yankees, like 2 weeks before. I finally emailed them and like, are we on? Oh yeah, of course. As long as you all good? And yeah, so I guess they're comfortable. I'm comfortable. The Islanders now, I've been back there. I guess if you take my 2 stints, it's about 23 years. So, and there's a lot of fans that go back and they remember that and they appreciate that. And I'm often surprised at how many people, on Facebook, I'm on there and I've allowed the fans to become friends on my own personal page. And then all of a sudden you'll get a pop-up on the Facebook Messenger and it's just like, hey man, thanks for all you've done. You've been part of my childhood right through with this team. And it's really great that you're still here. Hope you're going to be in Belmont. And stuff like that, and you can't beat that. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say it was a great thing to see, but I don't harp on that kind of a thing either. But it's nice to know that you appreciate it.
Gotcha. And of course, yeah, the Islanders are building that new facility, and we'll just go off topic a little bit. I mean, maybe put you on a bad spot, but would you prefer they kind of stay in the Nassau area, just kind of be that Islanders, or you like the idea of the new arena?
Well, it's still in Nassau County, so go back a long way. So there was a time when I was at the Coliseum, it was still pretty with it, but the Coliseum now, first, they'd never be able to make enough revenue to be competitive. And, they did clean it up some, but it's old and it's small. So would I have preferred that they just built next door and just like the Mets and the Yankees did and then tear the old place down? Yeah. But anybody who followed it, it became a political football. And, then they went to the Barclays, and Barclays wasn't bad, but it's not an arena for hockey. You had about 25%, a quarter of the arena couldn't see a goal, so that really isn't the ideal situation either. So as a lifelong Islander fan, to see them coming into a new building that's going to be state of the art, built for hockey, it's very exciting. It's like, it's almost like you can't wait. You're watching it go up. It's going up pretty quickly now. The roof is halfway done. They're trying to get it done so they can work inside for most of the winter. And so far they say they're on schedule to open year after next season.
Okay. And then switching back to the Yankees in terms of, like I said, you live on the island. To me, it always seems like the LIE, unless it's like 1 a.m, is this jam pack. And I mean, did you ever have like a traffic issue where you almost didn't get to the stadium on time?
Sure. Yeah, it's funny. It's gotten worse, frankly, because when I was driving with Bob Shepard, we'd leave about 4:15 for a 7 o'clock game and be there by 5. And over the last couple of years, I'm all the way back to 3:30 now to make that. And yeah, it's been a couple of times. All you need is a good accident somewhere in the Bronx, and it screws up all of it, So, with the invention of Waze, that thing will take you through all these back streets. I would never be able to get my way back if, unless I drop breadcrumbs, But yeah, I had a couple of times where I got close, but I still haven't missed my set yet. So, and that's usually, like I said, about an hour or so before game time. I've come in where it was like slide on the bench and go. And that's maybe been twice in 17 years. So, but yeah, it gets you a little nervous. But then on the other side, going home, I'm home in 35, 40 minutes.
Well, Paul, again, it was an honor to have you, honor to speak with you. Again, Paul Cartier, the organist for the New York Yankees, as well as the Islanders. And good luck on the new facility on the island. And again, hopefully you're back in Yankee Stadium. We're back next season, all of us.
All of us.
Stay safe. So I got one final question. Which is the better organization, Yankees or Islanders?
They're equal.
You don't have to answer it.
No, they're equal. I mean, the Islanders with the new people have been phenomenal, but it's the Yankees. So what are you going to, they're very loyal. As far as my job is concerned, they want to keep an organ all the time, because there were people that were willing to come in and just do a keyboard, and they were like, nope, it's got to be an organist. And there's not that many of us around anymore.